Welcome to Angel in the Afternoon. As you can see, very cluttered room here, so that means you're watching it. I'm your host, Angel Rivera, alongside tonight my very special guest, D of Deconstructing Topics.
Topics, yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I just butchered
that's
it,
fine.
but yeah, this is your podcast, and I thank you for joining me tonight. And tell me about your
Appreciate
podcast a
it.
little bit, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did that on purpose because people are gonna get tongue twisted when they say deconstructive,
Yeah, I
and I'm
got
like,
tongue. Yeah.
yeah, and you know what I'm saying. So that's where I come.
Uh-huh.
That's my, I don't know if you're familiar with Freddie Prince, the comedian that passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie Prince, Junior's
Yeah.
father, and he always say, "Well, that's not my job. Well, my job is to kind of like tell you it's deconstructing podcast." But just to tell you my podcast, yeah, we are, how can I say it to you? We're talking about a little bit of everything: politics, philosophy, life, all that in between. I started this podcast. As a matter of fact, a couple of months from now, it's going to be a year. So I started this podcast with that thing that, hey, listen, uh, there's a lot of information out there that our people don't know about, and we need to share. And I always got that motto that saving a mind is saving a life. And basically, that's what my podcast has been.
Well, I was listening to your podcast, and it's like a little bit of everything. I was like, oh wow.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
working. I'm working on some interesting stuff. I think in the upcoming podcast, I'll be talking about Pat Tillman. If you're familiar with Pat Tillman's story, the Army Ranger that
Yeah,
was playing
yeah.
football.
He played in
So,
the
but
NFL.
right, so a lot of people don't know about that story because that's that story where, he goes and join. He gives up his career, millions of
Mm-hmm.
dollars, joins the army because he's gonna fight, whatever for freedom, and he gets bamboozled and
Mm-hmm.
winds up in Iraq, and then he's like, "What the hell is going on?" And I think the next thing he goes back to Afghanistan, he gets killed. The what is it? The propaganda was that he was killed by these insurgents and some weird shit like that. I apologize for my language.
If no, 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 I remember correctly, he was killed by friendly fire.
Well, that's what I was gonna go at.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the propaganda that was used back then was that
Mm-hmm.
he was fighting for your freedom. They kept silent, and then unfortunately, keep in mind that Pat Tillman was a high profile person.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with. I mean, I'm gonna touch on my podcast, but just to give you a little sprinkle there, is that
Mm-hmm.
he was targeted by Donald Rumsfeld at that time.
Yeah. He
And keep it
was.
right. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those deals where imagine this is what they did to a high profile individual. Imagine all the young kids that went out there, God forbid, that are not high profile that die in action because of friendly fire or something. We don't know. I'm just, throwing it out there.
Let me try turning on my mic. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I remember he was one of the best linebackers in the league, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me go into the military." I was like, "Oh wow." I
Well,
mean,
to
he
to to
really.
to, to correct you, he was a free safety.
Oh, I thought he was linebacker. Okay, well,
Yeah, that's all right. But he was a big guy, meaning,
yeah.
in his mindset, it's like, bam, bam. So he was easy to target as an athlete because he's adrenaline. Like, I need to hit somebody, I need to kill somebody, I need to do some crazy stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, young kid too, young kid.
Yeah, I mean, he gave up multi-million-dollar contract. I was like, oh wow. I mean, I was a teenager then myself, and I was like, I don't know if
Right.
I give up that type of money in order to serve in this war. But
I was, yeah, I mean, I was a little bit older than that, than you, but it's endearing to me because, to be honest with you, that it probably was the thing because I always wanted to get into politics, and I think we'll touch that later on.
yeah,
Um, and I thought, okay, for some reason, I thought joining the military would have been that thing, and I guess that story's endearing because you start drinking the Kool Aid, and I
hmm
actually tried to enlist in the military, in the army, and lo and behold, I was told I was too overweight. Like, things
um,
happen for a reason. I
yeah,
went. I actually went to the base in Fort Washington in Brooklyn. I was,
uh huh,
in my boxes and all that stuff, and I was ready. And I was like, and that would keep in mind that was when they were in Iraq. That was 2003. So 9/11
Uh-huh.
happened,
Yeah.
and in the news they showing these people. Unfortunately, I guess they were getting beheaded, and you
Uh-huh.
kind of like hype like, yo, that's what they doing to our people, But hey, things happen for a reason, for sure.
Yeah, what was funny is around that age, I was 17, 18, and I was like, and they kept, no, and I was just out of high school, and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the military kept, every time I would go to work, there'd be some recruiter there, like, oh yeah, come join the war, you know what I mean? You'll
Right,
make a lot of money and you'll do this, and oh yeah, you go to school. Oh, if you die, then, you get all these benefits in your family and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna
right,
die? It's like,
right.
like they were telling me straight up that, oh yeah, you could die in this war, but
Well,
but
that process of the military, I think that was the original and should have been the original. Stay away from children, because basically they
yeah,
were all over uh, high school, and because I went to high school, I wasn't born here. I was born in Puerto Rico, but we'll touch
oh,
bases on that. But I went to public school here in high school, and
mm-hmm,
the propaganda machine. It's like, wow, you could go to get the GI Bill. I think the GI Bill or something like that. That you get money for college and all
yeah,
this, and
yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
get.
say, uh huh.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say a lot of because I went to a small high school, one of these new high schools that popped up in the '90s,
Uh huh.
and I'm gonna say, on top of my head, I'm probably gonna say that maybe 5 to 10 people from that high school, of the 30 people that graduated,
Mm-hmm.
served the military, and they're
Oh
good
wow.
friends of mine. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's people in the. I thought about serving. I was like, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
even if they said to me, well, and they straight up said to me, look, you'll most likely die, but at least your family get benefits. I mean,
And
they
I
were
said,
brutally honest. They were
no,
like,
right.
yeah,
You
they
know
were.
the funny thing. So when I go to tell you how thirsty these people were, and because keep in mind this happened after 9/11,
Yeah.
so I was kind of a little bit, I'm in my early 20s. I'm a little bit lost in life, trying to figure
Mhm.
shit out. So I call the recruiter. He was like, "Yo, come in um, to downtown Manhattan, whatever the case might be." And then I took this test. I forgot, this test is kind of like a test your IQ or something to that effect. So I'm
Yeah.
doing my thing. He said, you didn't score that bad. And he's looking at me and he said, maybe I could get you to this base today or something to that effect. And I remember, I kid you not, and I remember they did the measurements and he was like, for your age,
Mhm.
I had a little bit chubby for your age.
Yeah.
So then he called his captain, and then he calls 2 or 3 other people, and then they said something. We're gonna get you preparation H, and I'm like, what? Whoa, there's 4 guys on my
What?
preparation H. So, right, and I'm like, oh, I can't. I guess this is the hazing, and I'm not even in the military. So what it is that they told me, so you put saran wrap around your stomach with preparation
Uh-huh.
H, and what you
Yeah.
do is that actually helps to burn some type of fat or water fat. So they wanted for me to do that overnight so I could lose at least 10 pounds of
Oh
water
wow.
weight. Yes, so I did that actually. I bought
Mhm.
how can I say? They told me not to eat, or they told me if you're gonna eat, make sure that there's no bread or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they had me, I was doing sit-ups and I was doing all that nonsense, but it was just funny how these, big
Mhm.
man talking about preparation nations around rapping. I'm like, shit, who's the one that's gonna, you know what I mean, do the little funny stuff there? But yeah, that's how thirsty they were looking for recruits after 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty much accepting everybody, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm not serving in that war. I mean, I
Why?
would
Why?
rather.
Why? You? Well, what was your mindset to wanted to join at that time?
I was like, no, I mean, it wasn't. It was something that at the time I was like, I had a decent job, and I was like, yeah, I don't really need the risk or the money that badly. I mean,
Right.
I had a decent job, it wasn't great,
Okay.
but at the same time, it was like, I just graduated high school, had a good job, so I was like, Yeah, I
Okay.
don't really need to do this. And by the time I thought to do it, it was like, there's no way I'm doing this. I mean,
Right.
people just
Right.
die like left and right. It wasn't as bad as was in Vietnam, but it was like either you would get your limbs cut off, or
Right.
you would die, or you got PTSD because you see your friends die. So it was just like, yeah, I'm good.
Right. No, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, my thing was the same, but I always, for some reason, I always thought military, political career, whatever it
Hmm.
is, But again, that's if I survive. But I probably would have been a ranger. I probably look at me. I probably look all wild, Rambo, Puerto Rican Rambo, be like, we don't know. I'm just saying, but everything happens for a reason. And one of
Yeah.
the best things that ever happened to me is that they told me or in other words, they told me I'm fat. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, at the time, I was skinny as hell. I just skinny, no muscle, no fat, no nothing. I was
Right.
just skinny. But
Mm.
now now I'm like fat. I'm overweight. But
Now you're looking
but
good. Come on, Angel.
oh,
Come on.
thank you. I mean, yeah. But compared to what I was 20 years ago,
Right.
I was much skinnier. I
I
was
th-
much skinnier. So I was like, now it's like I'm not fat, but at the same time, I'm not. I've gained
right.
weight basically. Let's see.
I think you did mention. I think one other thing, but you good. I guess because in my understanding, not to get into your person, I think you was mentioning something about some mental issues or something
Yeah,
to that effect.
yeah.
And we all, yeah. I tell you, I'll be telling you some wonderful stories. But I guess you just got to keep in mind that just don't give up. Because in this world, man, we're gonna need people like us. We're gonna need people
Yeah,
like you. Feel me? So,
yeah. I'm bipolar, so that's what I was talking about before, like in past episodes. My dad is ex-military, had flashbacks when he got out in '82. Yeah, I mean, this is my co-host, my wrestling podcast. So, Mr. Perfect's
oh,
perfect.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm familiar. I'm
Hmm.
familiar. It's funny
Yeah.
because I go to well, I go to the Rumble site or whatever it is,
Uh
and the
huh.
first thing was the Mr. Perfect theme, and I'm like, dun 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 dun, and I'm like, yo, that theme was awesome. It made you feel perfect. Want to
Yeah.
spit the gum out and just poof.
Yeah.
I tell you,
Uh huh. Yeah. I mean, she's my co-host, and
right?
we're gonna go live tomorrow 8 o'clock Eastern. So,
Okay.
mm, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
you count me in if anything.
okay. Well, if you can come on, I'll send you a link too.
Absolutely.
Um, my dad, sir, not that he didn't serve. He almost served in Vietnam.
Okay.
To be fair, he didn't serve because he was drafted. So he went to
Right.
he's from Puerto Rico, so he went to the military base in Vieques, I believe it was,
Yes.
because he got drafted. So
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
grandfather dropped him off. Okay, go. He's like, okay, well he went through all the physicals and all that stuff, and it turns out that he had a defect in his arm. And even
Mm,
then, they were like, no, we can't take you. And they were desperate.
right.
It's 1964.
Yeah.
This is 1964. So they're right in the middle of Vietnam War, and they were desperate. So
Yeah.
my
Because
dad
a
had
lot of people forget
my
that Vietnam War, like that process started like in the early '60s.
yeah, the war started when Kennedy
Hmm.
was president.
Right.
He kind of went in, but at the same time he didn't. It took
Mm,
Johnson when he was killed. It took Johnson to in order to really get into the war. It was
right.
1964. My father was drafted.
Right. So and the Korean War was in the '50s.
Yeah.
Or what? Okay. Yeah, because the Korean War. I mean, and in Puerto Rico, there's that documentary, the story about the Bunkerineers Regiment, the regiment that when they were charged with AWOL,
Hmm.
um, things of that nature. So, I mean, unfortunately, one of my guys that I listen to in terms of history, he spits fire. I mean, he died a long time ago, but it's Pedro
Yeah.
Albizu Campo. If you're
Uh
familiar
huh.
with Albizu Campo, and one of the things that he's talked about is that when it comes to Puerto Rico, it's like Puerto Ricans are no good, Puerto Ricans are dirty, Puerto Ricans are this, but yet when you threaten the American Empire, Oh, Puerto Ricans, let's put some book back. Let's give them some guns. Go fight for our fight. Go fight our war that day. You know what I mean? Go.
Yeah.
And he basically said, oh, that's why Puerto Ricans are good. And not only that, you use Puerto Ricans in the Panama Canal killing Panamanians too. So that's another different story.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Puerto Ricans is always they we've always been used for the U.S.'s wars,
Mm-hmm.
going all the way back to World War One.
Right. Well, the Jones, what was it? The Jones Act, which
Mm-hmm.
gave us, gave Puerto Ricans that, it was 1917. It was like
Yeah.
before World War One. So the Jones Act basically is like, Puerto Ricans, okay, you know what, you guys got a lot of people here. We might need you guys, and boom, give us
Yeah.
citizenship.
We were handed citizenship, even though most Puerto Ricans didn't want citizenship at the time. it was
Right.
like it was like, oh yeah, I mean, screw you guys. Oh yeah, you don't want citizenship? Well, you get it anyways. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that I'm gonna touch because so much stuff to talk in my podcast. I mean, so much stuff, so much topics, and
Yeah.
and that's something that I definitely want to aim at, in regards to Puerto Rico, and not just Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic as well.
Mm-hmm.
My what I call my brothers. I was born in Puerto
Yeah.
Rico, and it's funny because I'm in the gym and I I work out. Hey, listen, I got three. As a matter of fact, I got three screws on my left foot because of a car accident that I
Uh
was
huh.
involved like 17, 18 years ago. And unfortunately, if I have extra weight, it's gonna hurt. So I gotta do
Yeah.
my gym thing, keep that weight down. So
Yeah.
I'm in the gym today, and this Asian brother, I don't know if he's Chinese, he's in that side, but Korean. He's one of those that kind of lean towards the left,
Uh huh.
type of thing. And
Yeah.
and I'm telling him about my podcast, so on and so forth. And the way I see things is different. I see things as more of anti-imperial, American imperial. And he looks at me like, so, as if I'm supposed to say I'm supposed to pick the Democrats or Republican. I mean, what am I? That's not my thing. So then I told him about a little bit of Puerto Rico, what's going on, and I told
Yeah.
him how is it that, and I love America. I love the American people, not the people that run this country.
Yeah.
Let's not get that twisted. But I told him I'm in Puerto Rico. The United States has done a lot of crazy stuff over there. We got the virus lab, the virus lab with the tuberculosis. We got the sterilization of women. I mean, we could
Yeah.
go on and on and on. So I'm telling him, how is it I'm over there? And just like I'd be so confident, and I'm supposed to come over here and pick a party. I'm supposed to pick who's going to oppress me the more. So he's looking at me, well, yeah, but I guess he was going to say some stupid stuff like, oh, but Trump is taking away democracy or some stupid stuff like that. Because I always tell
Yeah.
people, come on now. So then I went and I told him in 1965, uh, under Lyndon B. Johnson, a Democrat, United States Marine went and invaded Dominican Republic under the disguise that we're protecting because it was a civil war. We're protecting our interests. But in reality, Dominican Republic just finished electing their Democratic president Juan Bosch. And what United States did
Yeah.
is help, you know what I mean? The Dominicans
Yeah.
kicked that dude out and put their puppet in. And he's like, and I told him, so you tell me, why am I voting for Democrat again? Because at the end of the day, guess what? If there's one thing that these two parties have done is they never said no to war. Never say no
Mm.
to war. Maybe you have
Nope.
us scattered politicians, little here, there, and there, but that's it. But
Nope.
never said no. So
Nope.
that's
No one's ever said no to war in
right.
Washington, at least.
Oh, absolutely
I mean,
not.
if
So
you're, it doesn't matter what party you're in, Democrat,
right,
Republican. If you're in Washington, you're pro-war. I mean, you can't be
absolutely,
anti-war in Washington.
absolutely. And that's my thing that I tell people. It's like, um, why am I putting in power? And I hate when people bring this stuff. Oh, but Trump is going to end democracy. And what I told people is this, because I think he's part of this rules where, in my opinion, and I think I said this in
Hmm.
my podcast. I ask people this question: how do you get Joe Biden in office? Right? How do you do that? So what do? You pick up the phone and you call homeboy Trump. He's the Democratic Party and Trump are like this. in case people forgot, in New York City, where I'm at, but if we're talking about 80% Democrats,
Yeah.
and he managed to build his empire on the backs of Democrat, city. So, it makes you think like, wow, you know what I mean?
Trump was a registered Democrat in the
Right.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he's the one that supported Hillary when she was running for Senate in New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah.
She took that nice check, and she's like, "Oh my God, I love you, Trump." I'm like,
Yeah.
if this guy was racist as they claimed, she would have told me something. They ain't doesn't he have a golf course in the Bronx? Don't you think that somebody would have said this guy's
Yeah.
racist, bigot? So he's part of this whole thing. They
Oh,
probably
yeah.
call him
No
up.
doubt.
They'll probably call him up. Hey, Trump, we're gonna rig the elections for you. You're gonna win because we need Joe Biden in. So you build this guy
Mhm.
and you create this guy and you build him as a villain. We love wrestling.
Yeah.
And remember, in order to have a good guy, you have to have a villain. But this
Yeah.
villain right here needs to be like top villain where you could love this guy,
Yep. Yep.
which is the good guy. And that's what I saw. And what happened? People ran to the polls. Hey, Joe Biden. That's the way they trick United States to
Mm.
put in Joe Biden, and you create a villain that the white liberals kind of created, and they do people. And now I tell people that's funny. So Trump's supposed to end democracy, but yet the democracy in other countries, whether it's Dominican Republic and Palestine.
Hmm.
So
I I wonder how he's going to end democracy. I keep asking these people how. And he's like,
right.
he's
No,
going to end democracy. That's all I know. Angel.
no,
It's like
what's
how?
the funny thing? I was talking to one of my liberal Puerto Rican elders, and
Hmm.
I'm going to say this, Angel. I hate to, I take it back. I'm not gonna say I hate. One of the things I notice is this: I wouldn't want the elders to vote anyone over the age of 65, 70. Just as I wouldn't want them to be
Hmm.
politicians. And
Yeah.
I tell this to people: if your elders, let's say whether it's your mother, your parent, whatever, your elders, they 70, would
Hmm.
you let them pick up the cell phone and be a victim of telemarketers and scam? They said no. So what's the difference of you doing that and letting them watch the news like the CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News? They're gonna be scammed. And I'm
Yeah.
talking to this Puerto Rican liberal elder who's talking about Trump is because he says that he's gonna end democracy. And I say to myself, let me educate you. Let me educate you. Trump loves wrestling. The guy follows a script. And
Yeah.
he's gonna say that because guess what? He makes money off division. And guess who makes money off division? The MSN, SMN, MSN, CNN, Fox.
MSNBC, CNN.
Right,
Yep.
right. And
Hmm.
and my thing is this: if it's funny because MSNBC would be the type of people that be like, well, we don't take anything that Trump does serious. But I don't know where you take his word that he wants to end democracy serious and you give him the airtime. If you're really against Trump, then turn off the channel that gives us that airtime. That's all.
Yeah. MSNBC is just they even back in 2016, especially back then,
Right,
they loved to air Trump speeches. And then they turn around talking about how, oh, look how horrible he is. I'm like, why? If
right,
he's so horrible, why you air his speeches?
right, right.
Hmm.
And my understanding, MSNBC, you're talking about NBC. I believe it's the same network, the same people, Universal.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so where the apprentice, am I saying it right? You see, got that Puerto
yeah,
Rican thing going on.
yeah,
The
yeah. Trump.
apprentice. Am I saying it right, Angel? The
Yeah,
apprentice,
yeah.
right?
Trump,
Right.
The Apprentice. Trump was a game show host. That's what he
Right,
was.
in
Mm.
that universal thing, you know what I'm saying? And I'm saying to
Mm-hmm.
myself, when he got elected in 2016, and I was just like, oh my God, my people. And I started sharing more of Malcolm X. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because as a teenager, I was called the Puerto Rican Malcolm X. Oh, we'll touch on that. But Malcolm
Okay.
X has this interview where he goes and says, in this country, there's a war between the white liberals and the white conservative, and you're the pawn. You're that football pawn that they use. And I was
Mm-hmm.
telling people when I was showing that interview, I was showing people, doesn't that resonate to you now? Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
I'm like, no. I don't want to be a pawn in the games between white
Right.
people. I mean,
Right.
I grew up. I grew up as a Puerto Rican. You know, my parents were both Puerto Ricans, and my father, like I told you, nearly served in Vietnam. I mean,
Right,
if he served, I probably wouldn't be here, at least in this
right,
version. You know, so
yeah,
yeah, I mean, because most likely my father wouldn't be here because wouldn't be alive because Puerto Ricans are put in the front lines in Vietnam. And it's, oh yeah,
right,
go in the front lines along with the black people. I mean, you'll
yes,
die, but at least you served your country.
right. And even before, and so I was born in Puerto Rico, and I always tell people I came here illegally. People be like, "Well, wait a minute, how?" And I'm like, "What it is? I came here when if I don't know if you remember Easter Airlines, so they were
Yeah,
going
yeah,
out of business, and I said, you know
yeah.
what? I think my mother just grabbed us and just snuck us into the plane, and we came here. And when I came here, I'm like, what? I think I didn't. I was 9 years old, 10. I think I didn't talk to my mother for years. I think I don't know. I was kind of like,
Hmm.
"Mom, what happened?" We was, in the sun, and the thing about Puerto Rico is that we don't know who's a crackhead because
Yeah.
everybody's bathing in the sun. And I come here, I'm over here in the South Bronx, and the first thing in like the first year or so, I see Jesus over there in the corner. Yo, Papi, you got 50 cent, Papi, and I'm
Hmm.
like, since when I've been paying child support, like, you know what I mean? Like, what happened? So when we came here, for me was like, wow, wow. But I'm happy that I'm here though.
Yeah, I mean, I was born here in New Jersey, so I was born in
Mm,
Camden.
mm,
So yeah, so 30 years ago when I was born there, I'm 37 now. So about
okay.
30 plus years ago when I was born here, Camden was bad, but it wasn't as bad as it
Yep.
was today.
Yep.
So it was like
Yep.
my aunt has a house. She has a house in Puerto Rico and one here in Camden. So when she's
Okay.
here, I go see her, and it's
Nice.
like Camden is like, hey, Papi, you have 50 cent. I'm
Yeah,
like, no, I don't
your
have shit.
puppy.
I
Right,
have
your
shit for you. I'm
puppy.
sorry, man. I mean, just leave me alone. There's a
Yeah.
crackheads around.
But let me tell you something. And during Christmas time, it probably was the best time to kind of be outside because unfortunately, some of these individuals will go to the store and rob something, and
Hmm.
they'll whatever they rob, it could be a big boombox, and they
Yeah.
just run it because they got that adrenaline of whatever they took, and they'll sell it for
Hmm.
whatever money they need. And I'm
Yeah.
like the week before Christmas, you saw people outside,
Uh huh.
like they
I
like
know.
okay, which Felipe is gonna come down with that TV? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's the thing.
My About 30 years ago, my stepdad, he bought my first Nintendo, my first system. He bought
Mm,
it off a crackhead.
right.
I don't know if he stole it or not. I was like 4 years
I
old or
didn't
something,
damn, I
but
didn't want to use that word crackhead, but go ahead,
well,
Angel.
well, to be
It
fair, I
is
mean,
what it is.
he
I
he
know.
said it was a crackhead. That's why
Well, it
I'm
is.
using his words.
It is.
So it's like, oh yeah, I bought this off a crackhead. It's like, okay, I mean, can I play it? It's, oh yeah, I'm Super Mario Brothers. I mean, I fell in love with that game. But
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Nintendo was the first system for me. I remember coming to United States, right? So my mother came here before because one of my uncles unfortunately passed away, complications
uh,
of HIV. And we're talking
mm-hmm,
about the late 80s. So it was Wild Wild West. And
yeah,
we kind of learned because I was born and raised a Christian.
mm-hmm,
I think that with my mother, she was straightforward in the beginning. Like we were 5 years old and they were talking about demons and crack and drugs. Like they didn't want to sugarcoat anything.
yeah,
Santa Claus, no, that's me. Relax. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
she did tell me, got to be careful with the cracks, the bottles. So when I came here to the United States, I'm in this little park or whatever, and I see these toys in the ground. I'm like, yo, I want to play with these toys. And it's these caps with blue, with no, there's bottles with blue caps. I mean, with blue caps and red. You know, the next thing.
mhm,
So my mother's dark skin. It's a sunny day, and I don't know what the hell happened that I felt like there was a solar eclipse because I see a black
yeah,
hand just coming towards me, and I'm like, what? And it's my mother smacking my hand because I picked up the crack bottles.
mhm.
And she was like, yo, and I'm like, yo, what's this? My new solar eclipse. All I said, "Pwah!" And I'm like, all right, that's your initiation to welcome to New York, baby. Drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I had a I mean, I never picked up needles, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
it was, it was like the caps too, and it was like, oh yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
these are needles, for heroin. I figure,
Right.
it was like my mom told me about that too. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. One of the things, and it's interesting, and so I grew up in the Bronx South. I could tell you where I grew up, Brook Avenue, like straight South Bronx, like the first six, to the sixth line, the sixth train, if you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar. And
Yeah.
I was in the Brook Avenue, whatever the case might be. Let me tell you something. I'll be straight up. Not one time have I ever felt tempted to take any drugs or anything like that. Now the reason is because, well, number one, I always tell people one of the best things that ever happened to me not it was not being born in this country, because when you're not born in this country, when you come from another country, you see
Yeah.
things different. You know what I mean? You see things like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And in my junior high school, we're talking about sixth, seventh, eighth grade, there were kids taking drugs, and they were turning like real bad. And I said to
Yeah.
myself, nah, I'm good. And I remember a couple of years ago when I tell my story to people about what
Yeah.
happened to me, that I was living in the streets when I was a teenager. I remember there was this black gentleman a couple of years ago who was telling me, hey, I took Manteca, I took, heroin, all that stuff, and what you took. And I'm looking at him like, my man, just because I'm in the Bronx, I'm Puerto Rican, I meet the whole
It-
criteria. I'm supposed to be taking something? Are you stupid?
yeah. People assume that it's happened to me too. People assume that I've taken some sort of drug, and I really don't either. The
Right.
only thing I've done is drink alcohol. I mean,
Mm.
beer or liquor, and I don't do that often either. So it's like I don't do that every day either. So
Right, right. But so it's one of those things that's what happened in that situation. Um, One of the things that I also be, because if there's one thing I notice about people is that we lacking motivation, right? And
yeah,
one of the things that I'm bringing into my podcast is self motivation. I have done a couple of podcasts. I did one couple of like about a month ago on what are you willing to sacrifice to make 2024 the best for you. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and, and it's a question that people should be asking. And I ask myself, what am I willing to sacrifice? And Angel, those beers and alcohol, I love, my enjoyment
Well,
there.
yeah. I mean, I mean, alcohol is like beers at least are like yeah. I mean, I don't. My father was an alcoholic for years too.
Mm.
So my father passed away at 99.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in May '99, and he had multiple heart attacks randomly.
Mm. Mm.
Because what happened was he stopped drinking
Right. Mm.
around January, and or no, not January, but a little bit before his death, and he called me. He's like, "Mira, Angel, papi, yo dejé beber alcohol. I stopped
Yeah,
drinking
yeah, yeah,
alcohol."
yeah.
And he was like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay, great." I mean, I
Mm.
was like 11 or 12. I really didn't really think much of it.
Right.
And he had weeks later, he had multiple heart attacks, and he was gone.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I
man,
was like,
I'm sorry to
"Oh,
hear. My
no,
my
no,
father
it's
died
fine."
in the mid '80s. Yeah, but you say he
Okay.
was 99. You
Mm-hmm.
say he was 99, dude.
He passed in '99. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But how old was he?
50.
Yeah.
He
My
just
my
he turned 50 a few months before his death. Yeah.
got you. Yeah, my father. I believe he was in his mid 30s.
Oh wow.
So in Puerto Rico, and that's I guess up to no good, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. I mean, that's why I want to do like self empowerment podcasts as well.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts that I'll be working on, if you're familiar with Kobe Bryant,
Yeah. Yeah.
the late great Kobe Bryant, he had this like 10 rules of life, and something to that effect. And he was always preaching that, hey, you have to work to make yourself better. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people that will depend on you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's one of those things that that I'm also doing those type of podcasts, but it's a little
Yeah.
bit of everything, a little bit. So
Yeah. you do a little bit of everything, and I appreciate that. When I listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, it's not just politics, but it's also philosophy and stuff like that. You know.
Because my thing is this, and I always tell people, and especially my Puerto Rican blacks, Latinos, whatever, Dominican, all my peoples, is that if you don't know your history, then the white man is going to create it for you, which they have done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the case of New York City, the white liberals will not only create it for you, they'll force the crap out of you for you to
Mhm.
their agenda. And one of those things, in if case you wondering, how the hell did deconstruct and become that person? And when I was in high school in the mid 90s, my family we was in a shelter system.
Yeah.
And we was in a shelter system. My understanding at that time that no one under the age of 18 could have been by themselves. I think they changed that rule now because they
Yeah.
have mothers, whatever, childcare issues. So,
Mhm.
I would tell my mother, hey, I'm listening. I mean, hey, mommy, I'm staying in JL's house or I'm staying in this person's house. But in reality, I will go to Manhattan. I will go to City Hall. I will go there. And I kid you not, there was one day, with all due respect to my LBGT people, with all due respect, we
Yeah.
talk about the 90s. I mean, I'm in the
Mhm.
village and I see these two
Mhm.
beautiful men come out from their BMW, tour, kissing, whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm saying to my mom, wait, hold on. Why is it that you guys are living better than us? I'm just saying, why, that's my thought. I understand that we're fighting for equality for marriage, but you guys living better than us, like these two white men. And you start to think like, wow, sometimes I feel like this certain party, especially the Democratic Party, they use that agenda to shut down your agenda or your real issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Democrats and they've used African Americans for decades upon decades, and I'm like, and I tell people that I know are African American, what have they done with you for you since the '60s?
Right, right.
I don't understand why generation of generation still votes for this party when they
I
haven't
could
done anything since the '60s.
I could tell you what it is this. In, in New York City, right? They
Mhm.
have attached, and Malcolm X said it best. Your boss is a liberal. Your lawyer is a liberal. Your landlord is a white liberal. Every aspect of your life is a white liberal. And you like cage in your mind, that's how they control you, is that you have to vote for them, or if not, your livelihood depends on your livelihood. Unfortunately, what happens there is that then you have these parents, these black leaders who claim to
Yeah.
be black leaders, who just happen to be parents of these white liberals, with all due respect, and they just happen to be
Mhm.
puppets. And they like instill in your mind that you, in order to survive, you have to vote for them. And I said, no, you don't have to, because last time I checked, um, your boy. It's funny how life is, right? Uh,
Yeah. Mm.
what's his name? R. Sharpton, that
Uh-huh.
kind of artist. He's
Yeah.
very buddies with Trump, but yet when some black issue happens, this is that guy that you used to call back then. I'm just saying how that shit is all connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Trump was a Democrat, like I said
Right, right,
before, and
right.
it's like to the point where Nancy Pelosi was like, they loved Nancy Pelosi, Biden, all of them. It was like Clinton, they were all like,
Mhm.
in fact, the Clintons went to Trump's wedding back in the
Mm.
90s.
And you know what's the funny thing? And I think I might have made a comment on your timeline or whatever it is that it's called.
Uh-huh.
It's like when it's Trump and people like Alejandro Ocasio Cortez AOC,
Yeah.
they remind me of the old MTV, where MTV back then was like this radical anti-establishment network. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, guess who created them? The establishment.
Yeah.
And basically, when these clowns come on TV, yeah, yeah, I tell people, no, 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 they're just talking heads of the establishment, acting like they the
Hmm.
anti-establishment. Well, they not. They both the same.
AOC is I've she's Puerto Rican and all. People are like, oh well, she's Puerto Rican. Right? It's like, okay, but she's still part of the establishment. I mean,
Right. I think I said this, and I said this to a lot of people. And I think I believe you was a Bernie supporter, something to that effect.
Yes, I was. In 2016, I was.
I wish I was so open to tell people. My thing is because I wasn't born here, I could spot a fox. You know, Malcolm
Yeah.
X always said the fox and the wolf. From day one, when AOC won, I was like, this she's a plant. Because all she's talking about how Puerto Rican she is. I'm one of the most Puerto Rican people out there. Let me tell you something, Angel.
Mm-hmm.
With all due respect to you, I see that you got a little Puerto Rican flag. Look, I got a Guayabera going on right now tonight.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, you're not gonna see a Puerto Rican flag in my profile. With all due respect, Angel, I got you, brother. I'm
Okay.
just saying that I don't need to tell you that I'm Puerto Rican. I will tell you what happened in Puerto Rico, the history of Puerto Rico. I will tell you because that's the job that I'm doing. I don't need to tell you. So when AOC is popping this, I'm Puerto Rican with her accent and all this nonsense. Yeah, you came from Boston University,
Mm-hmm.
some whatever the case might be. I would believe you came from the Bronx Demon College or
Mm-hmm.
Hostels University, but Boston University, you got me with that one, AOC.
Look, look, I mean, I understand. I was born in the United States. That's why I'm proud of being Puerto Rican, my heritage. So that's why I put it on my Twitter.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
at the
Do it.
same time, I didn't go to Boston University. So that's the
Right,
difference. I mean,
right.
I'm a poor Puerto Rican dude, from New Jersey. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying with her constantly saying, "Oh, well, I'm Puerto Rican and I'm proud to be Puerto Rican." The hurricane Maria when Trump was president. I remember her taking pictures of her grandmother's house in Puerto Rico. Like, you see, look at this, and Trump hasn't done nothing. I'm like, why don't you do anything? You're a rich congresswoman. You do nothing for your grandmother.
Right, right.
I mean,
I think I do remember you saying something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I,
it just. Uh-huh. I'm sorry.
yeah. She did nothing for like either A, you're full of crap and you did something for your grandmother and you pretending you
Right,
didn't, or B, you actually didn't do anything, which is worse. And
right.
you let her live in that, with no electricity and no anything. Just, oh yeah, look at this house, it's totally destroyed. Why did
Mhm.
Trump didn't do anything? It's like, why don't you
Right.
do anything? I mean, you got money.
Let me tell you some interesting story. Right, I remember years ago. I was watching this documentary on the politics in Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
and that's politics over there. That's Wild West.
Yeah.
But I remember a former, I guess it was a former president. So I guess it's the guy. I forgot his name. There's the current president of Philippines at the moment. I guess he's
Uh
like this fiery guy.
yeah, he's very
You know,
Trumpian. Duarte.
right, right. But she said something interesting. Is that he looks like you in terms of the common person. He acts
Mm-hmm.
like you. He smells like you, but he's not you because he comes from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed in this country is that they prop up these people to act like you, to be like you, to be sound like you. Even that's why I said this
Mm-hmm.
when right when AOC was on some I'm Puerto Rican. I already know that you're not actually saying Puerto Rican because you're proud of being Puerto Rican. You're saying it because you're gonna psych the mind of a lot of people. You know that's how the philosophy and the psychology works behind politics. You want people, and I remember I saw my sister, my real sister, where I was spending time eating, and my sister is older than me, or mid 40s, whatever. And my
Mm-hmm.
sister said, "Oh, we were talking about AOC." She's like, "Yeah, I could have sworn she was vocal," and I'm like, "No, she's not vocal. She's vocal because they tell her to be vocal. If she was vocal, she'll be
Mm-hmm.
changing that D to an I. I will respect that. Meaning she
Yeah.
will drop the Democratic, whatever party to independent. I will respect that, but she's not doing that. She's just
Yeah.
being a parrot.
Yeah. If she ever become independent, like, okay, well, okay, well, I have some respect for her, but at the same time, it's like she's a Democrat. That's what she is. Hell, she
Right.
served she was an intern for Teddy Kennedy before he
Yeah.
passed. Yeah, so that's where she started in Washington.
Right. It's like Hillary Clinton, and a lot of people don't know this. That Hillary Clinton was part of the what's Richard Nixon's impeachment process back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
yeah. So my thing with like people at AOC, the government knows what person they need to prop up at a young age. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that they saw that in AOC just
Yeah.
the same
Yes.
way they saw that in Hillary, where they propped this person up. And it's funny because when I tell people that she was part of the committee to kind of impeach Richard Nixon, and we're talking about Hillary, people be
Yeah.
like, "Is this real? What does that mean?" I mean, all I'm saying to you, United States government has a thing of picking government plans and so on. There's no such thing as a coincidence in politics. Let's just put it
No.
that way.
No. I mean, uh, what's I mean, I can go back to JFK's assassination. Arlen Specter, who became a
Mm,
senator in Pennsylvania, he was a part of
right,
that investigation that
mm,
investigated Nixon's assassin. I mean,
right,
Jesus, Kennedy's assassination. He
hmm,
became a senator later. It was like, oh wow,
right,
this is year. I found that out years later. I was
right.
like, oh wow, yeah. I mean, it's just none of this is really a coincidence. Then
You know,
I mean,
right. And and
they
and and the
go
funny
ahead.
thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, no,
talking
no.
about so it's with Trump. And again, I'm not. I would never vote for him. I don't care. I wouldn't. He's part of the establishment. He's from New York City. Come on, he's part
Yeah.
of the establishment. When Trump was saying they stole the election, people were like, oh, they stole the election. People became election denier. And I tell people, you guys remember the 2000 election? You know, George W. Bush, right? The
Mm-hmm.
recounts in Florida where his brother happened to be governor. I'm just saying, can elections be rigged? Absolutely. They
Yeah.
can.
But
And it has happened before, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, the 2000 election was like, oh yeah, Bush was the governor of Florida,
Yeah,
and
Jeb
his
Bush,
brother
right.
was running for president, and
Yes.
somehow there was
A
bullshit and
recount.
shenanigans,
Right.
and then the Supreme Court ruled that, oh yeah, stop the recount. Bush is president.
Mhm.
Like, okay. I mean, I was a teenager then, but it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, yeah, this is
Right.
bullshit.
If people tell me, "Oh, you're election denier," yes, I am. I am. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm weary of the United States presidential election. I'm done with those elections, to be honest. I did vote it in the last election. I wrote my candidate in,
Yeah.
um, and I like to, for the most part, do independent. I was actually, how can I say, Andrew Yang? Are you familiar with him? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's another guy. But
Yeah.
that was a guy that I was kind of feeling some of his things where I always said about when it comes to the what is it, the universal basic income, the $1,000. I don't know if you remember, he's saying
Yeah.
people getting $1,000, and I want to say is this, like AOC with that dress. Oh, tax the rich,
That
whatever.
was stupid. Yeah.
Right. Because my thing is
Yeah.
this: what are you gonna give it to the government, the corrupted government? You're gonna spike up your salary or something like that. Why not give that to the people in some type of universal basic income? I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know about Hillary Clinton's connection to Richard Nixon until you mentioned it, but that's
Ooh.
something new for
Ooh.
me. I knew about the some other connections, like what I told
Ooh.
you about Arlen Specter being connected to the Kennedy investigation. But yeah, I
Oh,
was. I mean, I'm not really surprised. I mean, the, like you said, the elites always find a way to find their next superstar,
right,
like their next, like the Obamas
right, right.
or the Bidens. Even it's like Biden has been in the Senate in Washington since before I was born.
That's
I
why.
mean,
That's why I started my podcast, Angel, to teach
hmm
people, to educate people. And again, it's not a conspiracy theory for one to be involved in that. It's just to know that someone was doing that. Again, no coincidence. We all know when it comes to the Clintons, we all know who's the driving force behind that. It's definitely not Bill. It's Hillary. Because to be honest with you, I don't disrespect her. I respect her because she's actually very smart.
yeah,
I'll give the devil the credit where the devil's credit is due. But unfortunately, the media and this government has pushed all into you on your face, and you just be like, Get this lady off my TV, but guess what? She always gonna have people
Yeah.
following her.
Uh,
So,
I mean, Hillary Clinton. I've hated her for decades. I mean, going
mm,
back to the early 2000s. I mean, it's like when she was in the Senate. I'm like, nope, not interested
right,
in her. I mean, when she ran against Obama, this is 15 years ago.
right,
I was a big Obama supporter. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, Barack Obama, and let me vote for him. I was a kid. I was like in my early
right.
20s. It was like, let me vote for him.
That
And
you
changed
needed
everything.
me. You needed me in my life. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yeah, I didn't know any better. I was in my early 20s. I was like, oh yeah,
Right.
let me vote for Obama.
Mm,
It turns out that he didn't do anything. I mean, and then I became a big Bernie supporter in
right.
2016, and it was like, again, I was naive, so I didn't know Bernie was full of crap too
Let me,
until very recently.
let me tell you
Oh,
about
yeah,
Obama. The way I saw this, right? So we talking about George W. Bush was the president,
yeah, yeah.
second term. There's a war going on, and I always said this: how do you continue a war without backlash? How? You can't have Clinton. You cannot have her as president.
No,
Whoever
she's
who
part of the
was the
war.
other right? Who was the other individual that was running
Um,
for the Republic? Was it McCain or
McCain,
something?
John McCain. Yeah,
John McCain.
he was
War.
the
He
main
came.
candidate
Remember,
for the
he's a
Republicans.
veteran. So
Yeah.
what do you do? My understanding is that the Republicans started secretly to kind of back up Obama. Why? Well, how when Obama became president, how do you bail out the friends of the Republicans without backlash? Because basically that's what happened. All these
Yeah.
corporations that Obama administration bail out was Republicans. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
their friends.
Yeah, Obama was complete. Even he said he was like a Reagan Republican. He was like
Right,
he governed like a Republican. Even he admitted to this, and I was like, "Oh yeah, fuck this fucking guy." By 2012, I didn't vote for him. I voted for
right.
the Greens or whatever. It's like I didn't.
Yeah,
I was done with him by 2012. But
right. And another thing to it. So check this out. Um, you remember the Occupy Wall Street thing going
yeah,
on?
yeah,
That
I
was on
was.
the
Yeah, I was involved in that kind of.
right. No, no, that's fine. So this is my thing.
Yeah.
That happened under Obama. The way I
Mhm.
started to see is that there were my understanding is that Occupy Wall Street was people came from all sides,
Mhm.
from left, right, middle, whatever, because they were
Yeah.
getting fed up with the banks, the overdraft fees, so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
If you were someone in Occupy Wall Street that said, you know what, F Obama, that's when you started to notice that the media started saying, well, F Obama. Well, let's just say you didn't say F Obama. Let's just say that Obama is bailing out. You call out Obama basically. What the
Yeah.
media started doing was, you know what, you're a racist. And that
Uh huh.
started back then. You know what I mean? In
Yeah. Yeah.
2010. Oh, there's
Yeah.
not, where? Oh, so he could bomb the drones or whatever the case might be. Oh, so that means you're a racist. And
That's what.
that's,
Yeah,
you
that's when
remember?
that started. Yeah,
Right. You could look at
yeah.
this thing. I'm a Star Wars fan. For being Puerto Rican, Star Wars is universal. Darth Vader, let's go. I'm a,
Oh yeah, I
uh,
love.
hey. Listen, I'm not sure if you're
Eh,
a Star Wars fan, but I'm a
yeah.
Sith.
Hey Luke, I'm your father.
Right. And I remember. I think I don't know if you could do it now, but I did this years ago. Darth Vader is a racist. There was some article in 2011 by I think it was BuzzFeed that Darth Vader was racist. Now
Oh,
everything is racist,
I
but you
know
see,
it's so frustrating.
right? But you see how they planted that seed to say it started with Barack
Mm-hmm.
Obama. And
Yeah.
then now, and then they I don't know, no, we're not using that to defend Barack. No, because you know what? There's a lot of dark black custom in Star Wars. Hello, doesn't that mean that's racist? That whole
Mm-hmm.
nonsense of because I always believe that the conservatives started the culture wars in the 60s. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
white liberals used it and co-opted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the conservatives back in the '60s. I mean, the the hippies and stuff. They hated them, so it was like okay, that's why
Right,
Nixon was elected. Part of the reason why
right,
Nixon was elected. Because oh yeah, fuck the hippies, those young hippies, that smoke weed
right,
and they do DMT or whatever, do drugs.
right,
Fuck them, Let me elect Nixon so you can start a war. You can start the war on drugs,
right,
which is what led to all the shit we're in today in
right.
Central America and stuff.
Well, I mean, well, even before then, in my understanding, yeah, I believe was it the CIA or the FBI, the LSD. I think that they
Oh,
used somebody to infiltrate. I forgot what's the name of that
what?
guy, man.
Um, I
Oh,
I know the CIA use LSD for their torture program. What was it
right.
called? Damn, I forget what it's called.
At the end of the day, I guess we could say it's safe to say that the war on drugs was not due to Colombia or whatever. It was actually we started, you know,
Yeah, it was
something.
here. It was
Right,
about us. It was here. It was like, well, I mean, the hippies do LSD and they do all these drugs. So let me start a war on drugs in order to get rid of all these drugs in the street.
right,
And then the CIA brought in crack cocaine in the '80s.
right,
And then you go from
right.
there.
That's why I knew there was something funny in that hood, and that's why the way I started to see it, and I'm like, oh, come on, don't do crack. It's like weed. Let me tell you something about weed. When I was a teenager, yeah, I did my little weed thing, but I always
Yeah, I did
said,
too.
I said to myself, there's something doesn't seem right. So you smoke weed, something that is far less harmful in terms of, let's say, versus liquor, alcohol, versus cigarettes that are legal.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I said to myself, so you smoke this plant and you get arrested? And I said to myself, whoa, I'm just saying something doesn't
Yeah.
seem right.
Marijuana, whatever, weed, it grows naturally. Why is it
Hmm.
illegal? Meanwhile, I
Right.
can drink a beer or smoke a cigarette and it's legal, even though it's
It's
worse than marijuana or
right.
whatever.
Well, that's how you lock people up.
Yeah,
That's why you locked a lot of black people in '94 in the mid '90s.
yeah. The crime
The
bill.
crime bill, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Biden
that's
wrote that.
yeah, he was part of that
Yeah,
situation.
Biden wrote
Absolutely.
that. He helped Bill Clinton write that bill, and then he turns around and acts like, "Well, I'm a friend of black people."
Right.
Oh yeah, even though I didn't want segregate, I was against desegregation, and
Right.
I put a bunch of it in prison. I wrote that bill, but still, I mean, I'm pro black people, and African Americans fell for it. I'm like, what?
And you
I mean,
know
I, I,
what's
I
no,
didn't understand it. Go ahead, go
I,
ahead.
in the saddest thing, and again, I love this country. I love this people. I love the American people.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of dumb Americans because of the system, and
Mm-hmm.
especially the public system. And my thing is this: in 20 was it 2020 when they had the primaries, right?
Yeah.
Kamala was in a primary and calls him racist, right? He calls
Yes.
Biden. The funny thing is that there were people in the white liberal media that was like, "Yeah, Kamala, that's right. He is the cheat sheet of what he did, why he's racist." But
Mm-hmm.
once she dropped out, they forgot about that. Whoa,
And, and all of a sudden, Kamala became his VP pick, and now
right,
she's vice president. I'm like, wait, wait, wait. Was he a racist a few months
right.
ago? And what's his face? Somebody called her out on it. I think it was the Daily Show, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well,
Oh
I mean, that
yeah,
was the
I seen that
primary.
clip. Well,
Yeah,
we
that was the
supposed to.
primary. I mean, it
Right,
wasn't what's the
right.
big deal? It was just
Mm.
the primary." I'm like,
Am I
that tells you politics is like wrestling, pro wrestling.
right?
It's like,
Or big time. I
yeah,
always said that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
always said that. There's a correlation between which is scripted. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
use the F word because if I make it
No,
to a place
mm-mm.
that is out there, I wouldn't want Stone Cold Steve Austin to give me a stunner. Don't use
No,
that F word, son,
mm-mm.
because if not, you're gonna get that Stone Cold because Stone Cold said so. Blah, you know what I mean?
I refuse to use that F word. It's predetermined, yes, but
Right,
I refuse to use the F word. I never
right.
use it. It's like I respect those guys so much.
Me too. Me too.
Mm,
And
mm.
hopefully, if we get into the thing tomorrow, is one of those things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we'll talk
You,
about.
if you want to come on, I'll let you know. If you're able to, and I'll send you a link too.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that how much time we have here left? I don't know. Seems that
Let me
we're having a
see.
lot of fun. A little bit too
About
much
half
fun.
an hour, 45 minutes. I'll go. Go
Now,
ahead.
let me say this. Shout out to Jose Vega. Jose
Mm-hmm.
Vega running for the New York District 15. So Jose Vega, you know, it's funny because I think he reposted. He said, "My friend." I don't like to use the word friend. You're either my brother, my little brother. It doesn't matter if you're older than me. I'm gonna call you
Yeah,
my little brother.
he said my friend.
Right, he's a good friend.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Jose, if you're watching this, I ain't trying to knock you. I'm just saying, I like to say my brothers and sisters. I'm not taking away because you know what? I think Cornell West copied me, not
Mm-hmm.
the other way around. Cornell West, stop it already. But shout out to Jose Vega. It was like 2 weeks ago when he decided to run for Congress against Richie Torres.
Yes.
I was sick like a dog. I was like, oh, I had that forever virus. But I reached
Yeah.
out to him and I told him, yo, Jose, not for nothing, but I've been thinking about running for mayor of New York City. And he was like, yo, let me know, brother. We could do the thing. And I haven't confirmed because I believe my understanding of what he said. And trust me, I have my, I have a lot of political friends, and where I work at, there's a lot of political stuff there. It's a fusion ballot, basically.
Yeah.
So it,
Um,
it's there. I'm just saying, shout out to Jose, but I'm trying to manifest something that's there. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, Jose, I first time I heard of him, he called out AOC in that town hall she did.
Which is it's up the block for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, is it AOC a representative? I assume, right? You're in the Bronx.
right, so she's a representative in my area.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
ve-
she's your congresswoman. Yeah,
well, so right, so now, so Jose is on the district 15, so it's a little bit more towards Mauritania. My understanding towards the Bronx. The Bronx, you could say if you think of the Bronx, I think it's more leaning toward the west,
yeah.
which he's running. Jose
Okay.
Vega. And for me, when I saw him, he reignited this thing since I was a kid to get into politics. But if I was gonna get into politics, I'm running an independent. But you already know,
Yeah, I
running
mean,
independent.
it's difficult.
But we making it
Hmm.
happen. That's why I say it's a revolution going on tonight.
Well, yeah.
You
I
know what I mean?
mean, it's everything. Anything that is worth it in life is not going to be
Yeah,
easy. It's going
absolutely.
to be hard, but
Well, one
ultimately, it's worth it. But
one of my sisters in the arm today, very endearing person, very special. She was like, "Well, not for nothing. I respect you. I think you're one of the smartest, if not the smartest person that I ever met in my life. This is a person that's older than me that knows a lot of people." And she said,
mhm.
"Man, but me personally," she was like that, very dramatic, like me. Yo personalmente in Spanish, yo
Uh-huh.
personalmente, why you just don't start small, council, so whatever. And it's not the first time someone has said that, and I get it. And I'm like, yeah, but I said to myself, you know what? In life, because of my car accident, I survived a car accident. I could have been dead. I know how life, like how short life is. Tomorrow is
Yeah.
not guaranteed. You feel me?
Um.
And I said to myself, you know what? I need to tell a story because I remember when I was living in the streets in the Bronx or whatever it is that I was doing. I remember I used to see the cracks in the streets in the Bronx, and
Mhm.
I never when I saw those cracks, I didn't see them as physical cracks. I saw them that's the system. The system wants you to fall through that cracks and never get out. I
Yeah.
saw
That.
that.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing with me. I live in Trenton, New Jersey, which is the capital here in
Hmm.
New Jersey,
Right,
and there's a bunch of cracks here,
right.
and there's all these terrible. I mean, there's entire blocks here, which is
Hmm.
abandoned homes,
Right.
and there's it's just awful here. There's a bunch. I mean, I went to I go all the time to this area there, which is nothing but homeless,
Mm.
and I'm like, I think to myself, that could be me if it's just
Right.
one or two different things. I'm could be here, just sitting
Right.
here. I'm grateful just to be able to do this, and have my small apartment. I'm grateful. It's not like
Right.
it's I could be out here right now freezing my
Mhm.
ass off. So I'm grateful just to be able to do this show and have internet.
Right. No, no, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's my thing. When I saw these cracks, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna fall to that. Because those cracks
Hmm.
are meant to be on purpose. They could fix it,
Yeah.
but they're not gonna fix it.
No.
Because unfortunately in New York, if you go on disability, they're only gonna pay you 170 a week if you're working. 170 a week, even in the 90s, was nothing. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
So I said to
Even
myself, boom.
here in New Jersey, I mean, 170 a week is a joke. I mean, you can't even rent an apartment here for
Right.
170.
I mean, I believe New Jersey's disability, the payment's a little bit higher than New
Yeah. Yeah.
York,
It
but
is.
still,
It
if
is
you're
here.
living in New
Yeah.
York City, that's pennies.
I know it's
So
nothing in New York City. Yeah.
right, I think my understanding they're gonna try to change it and up, but whatever the case might be. And when I said that, I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna fall into to these things. So I just said to myself, I have there's a couple of people that said, yo, David, you're an inspiration. How the hell did you survive what you went through? I tell people my story. I was working on a book as well. There's a lot of things that I want to do. But I said to myself, you know what? There's a story that needs to be told for every, because D stand for David. My name is David. I was
Mhm.
named after the Goliath David from the
Yeah.
scriptures. So that
Mhm.
means that I'm the underdog. So basically, I said to myself, listen, we got to make things happen. We have, for every David, there's 20, 30 other people that are gonna, how can I say, fall through that crack. So we need the most biggest platform that we could get. Not only because I share my story, because I always said, and I told you early,
Mhm.
saving a mind and saving a life for sure.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my name Angel. My
right.
mother wanted to name me Jesus after the
Oh,
God.
that's right,
So my father name is Angel too. So
right,
he's like, no, name him Angel, my son. After me. So
mm,
eventually, the agreement was made. I would be named Angel Jesus.
right. Okay,
My middle name is Jesus, but I don't use
right,
it. But
right,
it's my
right.
middle name. So
Yeah, so that's what the D stand for in terms of deconstructing topics. Is D actually? My name is David. So it's one of those things that I said to myself, you know what? Why not? Why not? And Jose Vega has kind of reignited that thing because, to be honest with you, I love politics. I love talking about politics.
I do too.
You know.
I spent years talking about politics on Twitter
Hmm.
until Indy and for INN and stuff would tell me, "Oh, you should start making content." I was like, I was
Okay.
scared to death. I wouldn't do
Wow.
it for years until recently, until like a couple of years ago. I was
Right.
convinced to join INN, and I'm here today doing this
Right.
show. I'm like, well, how am I? I'm amazed that I'm doing this, even have an audience, but
Right.
and then now, I'm doing other podcasts like wrestling podcasts and stuff. So
Right.
I love it. I can't get enough of doing this. I'm glad that Indy convinced me, but yeah.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Mm.
Because my thing with politics in Puerto Rico, politics. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, even if we go to celebrate kids, first year, the party will end up with policy, and it's more of the status of Puerto Rico, whether it's the independence, whether it's
Hmm.
statehood, or just leave it at is. Again, that's another conversation. That's different than conversation. But in Puerto Rico politics and all that, I mean, you could be married and end up in politics. When I came to the United States and as I got older, especially when I was a teenager, I had these white. Oh, you know what's funny? I had a white teacher. I can't say white. Okay, he was Irish American, and
Hmm.
he used to call me El Che, which is Che Guevara.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is that I had this thing of we need to unite as people. We
Yeah.
need to do something as people. I just came off staying from the streets, and I always said about the streets. I didn't grow up in the streets. The streets adopted me because the streets needed somebody like me, and I needed the streets to learn. So it's one of
Yeah.
those deals where I'm saying to myself, he started calling me, and then I had this teacher who called me the Puerto Rican Malcolm X,
Oh wow.
and yeah, so after that, I was like, you know what, I got to get into politics. I got to educate people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't never like a. I wasn't. I was into politics, but I was never called like a Malcolm X or anything. But I was. I always loved talking about it. I mean, if you go back to my Twitter account, the
Uh,
one you follow me on, I went from an Obama supporter to a Bernie supporter, what I am today. I
right.
mean, I started this Twitter account back in 2009, and
Mm,
I mean, I went from being Obama to Bernie to what I am today, which I'm
right.
proud of. I mean, you go back to my old tweets, and it's like I was a liberal, a standard, like
Right.
Democrat, and I look back at that today, and I'm like, oh wow. I mean, I'm embarrassed that what I would
Right.
think, but now I'm proud of that because I'm like, look, this is where I was,
Right.
my 20s, and today at 37, this is where I'm at, and
Mm,
I'm proud of that. I mean, I've changed as a man, as an individual, and I'm proud of that. I mean,
right.
I was never, I wasn't always the revolutionary that I am now, but I'm proud of where I'm at. So if you want to go back and make fun of me for my past tweets, go ahead. I don't care. But I was wrong then. Now,
No,
today I was right. Go ahead.
no, no. I mean, that's one of the things that I teach about that. A lot of people, a lot of Americans that are born here, they are malnourished of education in terms of history, in terms of this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I could understand that at a young age you lean towards this because
Mm-hmm.
my understanding, a lot of these how can I say, college institutions, university, they lean towards that.
Yes.
You know what one of the most interesting I always said about those college institutions? That college institution is probably one of the most anti-unions institution because they frown upon people that want to be garbage pickers or clean toilets and all that. But last time I
Yes.
checked, in New York City, there's people that clean offices, bathroom, toilets, making $30 with a pension, benefits, and so on.
Yes.
Last time I
Uh,
checked.
I was in college about 2010 or 11ish, and
Hmm.
I was an honestly, when I look back in those days, I was an awful person. I mean, I would be like you talked about just now,
Right.
where I would shit on the toilet cleaners and stuff like that, and
Mm.
I'm like, I was an awful person then. I mean, I'll be honest with you,
You're
I was a terrible
awful,
person.
Angel. That's why
Yeah,
I
yeah,
came here.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but seriously, I wasn't a good person then. I mean, it
Right.
was like I was just a standard liberal going to college, like, oh yeah, yeah, fuck those
It
poor.
ain't, it ain't
And
no, but
meanwhile,
it ain't your fault though. It ain't your
go ahead,
fault. Let
yeah.
me tell you something, because I was in my last year of high school. We had a lot of these what they call it, not recruiters, these college recruiters or whatever they call them, that they will
Yeah.
go and say, come to my college, whatever. I remember there was this black gentleman who represented, I believe it was Hofstra University in Long Island.
Mhm.
He asked the kids, everybody, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a business. I want to do this. And he would tell the kids, oh, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. When it came down to me, you know what I said, Angel? Angel, do you know that my favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels? And you know what I said? I want to be a wrestler just like Shawn Michaels. We're talking about 1997. So Shawn Michaels was one of the hottest wrestlers.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a sexy boy. You know what I mean? When I
Yeah, I
said
know.
that, the kids, the other kids laugh. You know why he said that, mother flower? Oh, you need to be realistic because only with a college degree you can live life. And I said, I feel like super kicking that dude. But that's, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that they
Yeah.
wanted to force you to go to college because at the end, it wasn't about you. It's about the money that they're gonna make and the college debt. You know what I mean?
Yes, and today I dropped out of college after a year and a half,
Mm,
but I'm grateful. Honestly, I'm glad I did because
right,
I would have gone into debt like everybody else done. And now here comes Biden. Oh, I'm going to cut your debt. Maybe not really, but yeah, I'm going
right.
to cut your debt. So let me see. Mrs. Perfect is perfect. So I want to be a wrestler. Yeah, I did too. I'm not going to lie to you. My favorite wrestler was Bret
Whew.
Hart.
Dun, dun,
when I
dun,
was
dun,
growing up.
yeah.
Yeah, I love
No.
Bret Hart. I mean, it's like I mean, I couldn't get enough of him.
One
My
of the
mom
best
said,
wrestlers. One of the best
"Oh yeah,
wrestlers,
yeah, no
man.
doubt." I mean,
Technical.
Mr. Perfect was just as technical too. I mean, my
Oh, Mr.
co-host,
Perfect.
here, yeah, she
Oh
loved
yeah.
Mr. Perfect. I mean, you'll talk to her if you ever come on tomorrow night. You'll be able to talk to
Right.
him. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
she
no,
loved
no.
Mr. Perfect.
For me was Sean, and at that time, if you remember ECW, EC
I
Dub
remember
was
ECW.
so easy. So that's another thing. I guess I'll implement this, even though it's a little wrestling talk.
That's
So
fine.
for
Go ahead.
me, I always saw ECW as not another wrestling entity, but a attitude. And
Hmm.
I took that attitude as you that rogue, anti-establishment, F everybody, whatever the case might be. Oh, you really? So you're gonna think that I'm gonna fail in life? You know what? Let me grab this chair. Boom.
Hmm.
I lived that lifestyle like EC
That,
Dub.
that
EC
that's
Dub.
why I loved. I mean, I liked DCW back in the day. I went to
Right.
DCW Arena a few times, which
Okay.
was, as everybody knows, not everybody knows here, but if people, I'll tell you, it was a little bar in Philadelphia. It was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The bingo
yeah, it was
hall.
a bingo hall
They
bar.
go
It was
what they
literally a
call it.
bar,
Right.
and I was a teenager then, and they were like, "Oh, here's a beer." Like, okay.
Mm,
Oh, I was underage, but like, nobody cared
right.
then. It's like, okay, it's like, sure. But yeah, I mean, I was there a few times with my older cousins, and I was like, I
Right.
loved it. It was like, I couldn't get enough of it then.
Yeah, so for me, that's ECW was like that thing for me. Like, okay, it was that lifestyle. So once I graduated high school, I'm like, I didn't go to college because I said to myself, not everybody, and I always say, college is not for
Hmm.
everybody.
Yeah, no, no.
And what I
Yeah.
noticed is that these people, and I remember those commercials where they would, or even articles where they say, if you have a master's degree, you're gonna make $200,000, and if you don't, you're only gonna make $50,000 or whatever the case might be. But they forgot to tell you that you're gonna have a $300,000 debt.
Hmm.
So what's the whole
Yeah.
point of $200,000 per year?
No,
You know,
that's why everything happens for a reason. That's happened to you with the military. You talked about earlier. It
right,
was like when I dropped out of college, I refused to take out loans.
right,
And I was like, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was like, yeah, I dropped it. The money was, imagine me being a lawyer. Okay, I'm a lawyer, great. I have my law
right,
degree, but I don't have any money to pay for my to pay for the loan. So it's like, oh
right.
yeah, I'm in debt up to here, but I have my
Mm.
degree. It's meaningless.
Right, and that's when I started to notice there's
Mm.
something odd about the college system and whatever. Look, and it's funny because I don't want to contradict myself because I do love college football. I'm a big fan of college football. I've been in a
Yeah.
couple of college football games, but even then, excuse me, even then in college football, yeah, you do offer free scholarship, free education, but at the same time, you really put money on college football to increase your enrollment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To say, oh, look at this school, we won national championship. So
Yeah. I mean, what's what I'm looking for? I watch college sports, but it's like I don't really care about it too much. It's more
right,
like I was like, oh yeah, I mean, college football and stuff.
right,
I'm at professional football. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Yankees fan, and
me too.
so yeah, I like New York sports basically. I'm a
Right,
New York sports fan. So but my sports is baseball. That's number one
right.
sport. So
I was
I
a
love
Mets
baseball.
fan, man. I was a Mets fan when I came to this country.
Uh
The
huh.
Mets was one of the hottest teams. Obviously, they won the World Series in '86.
Uh huh.
Darryl Strawberry was my favorite baseball player.
Oh,
But
Daryl won multiple World Series with the Yankees in the
right,
'90s.
right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we talking about when he was with the Mets.
yeah,
So I
yeah. Mhm.
remember that the Mets did not re-sign him, so he went to LA, and that's when I was like, eh. So what I started to do because I'm in the Bronx, I started going to Yankee Stadium and I
Uh
started
huh.
collecting the autographs. And once I started getting close to these baseball players, I guess I became a big Yankee fan. The rest is history.
Yeah.
I even went. I even went to the 2009 World Series. I went to Game Six. Last time that we won the
Um.
World Series, I was there
Yeah.
when Pedro Martinez was pitching against Phillies.
Yes. Yes. I remember that.
Then and had,
I wasn't
mhm,
there in person, but I was
right.
watching it at home. I was like, oh,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness! I was like,
Pedro.
let's go.
Pedro was done by 2009,
Right,
and he was
right,
done. I mean, he was decent, but by the time in 2009, it was like, nah. The
right.
Yankees dominated him, and they handed him his with whole Pedro Martinez. Some oh, the Yankees are my daddies. That was years before, but
Yeah,
but it
before
applied
right.
then. Yeah, yeah.
Well, when we was in a stadium, there was people was like, "Who's your daddy?" And I think
Hmm.
that came off. I believe it was Hideki Matsui to hit a home run. I think
Yeah, yeah.
Hideki had like
Matsui
five
was
RBIs.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's the World Series MVP that year.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
it was one of those things, and the Yankees. I guess that's another different topic in itself. But the Yankees, I love the Yankees. I'm a big Giants fan. I'm a big football fan.
Yeah, I
Football to
love.
me, hmm
I I grew up as a Giants fan in the early '90s with Michael Strahan. I mean,
right,
I was so happy when he won that Super Bowl in 2008 or nine.
yeah.
I mean, Eli Manning was a hero to me because he finally got Michael Strahan that ring that he deserved so much.
Well, because when I started going to school here, public school,
Hmm.
they were happy with the other kids, the bilingual class, as that they would
Yeah,
call it. Until the when I got to the sixth grade, my understanding at middle school they weren't a budget, so they didn't have a Spanish teacher. So they
yeah,
put me with the regular kids, the English speaking kids, and there
yeah.
was a lot of black kids. And it was the first time that I've had black friends, and they put me into football. And that was in 1990. So the Giants won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
That's when they had Buffalo, and that was the famous Whitney Houston,
Mhm.
anthem, that propaganda in the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
with the jets
because
flying, you
because the
know.
first Gulf War started then.
Right, right. So I remember that.
They went to Iraq the first time.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
invaded Iraq. It was off that. Remember that fake story with the girl from Kuwait that
Yes.
she said, "Oh my goodness," a
It,
lot of
it,
people don't know that.
yeah, it turns out that that girl was a daughter of a Kuwaiti ambassador, and
Hmm.
she pretended like, oh yeah, the Saddam Hussein's military was stomping babies' heads and bullshit like
Right,
that. And so that was bullshit. It was just
right.
lies to get us into that war.
Well, I mean, it was similar, and I said this in one of my podcasts. It's similar to what happened in the situation with Israel and the Palestine. And
Hmm.
again, all I'm saying, look, yeah, Hamas, but I tell people, let me tell you something. Um, After World War II, when Israel started going after these Nazis, they
Hmm.
pinpoint these Nazis to know where they were at. If there was a flight that will go from Palestine to Israel, it will get shut down. I don't know where you're gonna tell me. I don't know where that Hamas shot rockets. Then you didn't know, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know where you decided to go. Not go after Hamas pinpoint, the terrorists, whatever you want to call them. No, you went after the whole Palestine. And I said to myself, wait a minute, these are the people that could find a needle in a haystack in the Nazis after World War
Yeah.
II by the Mossad, but you're gonna
Hmm.
tell me that your intelligence in October 7th wasn't working or whatever the case might be. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
It just it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right,
It was like, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is this. I mean, Palestine. Yeah. I mean, Hamas. You can call them terrorists all you want,
right,
but ultimately, they're doing whatever it takes to protect their people,
right.
which is the Palestinians, which is the Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine for a second if here in the United States we were attacked by the
Right.
Chinese, the Russians, or whatever, and they occupied us. Let's say in this
Mm-hmm.
example, and we and all of us and certain amount of Americans that said, let's say the conservatives with guns, we'll start shooting at the Russians, the Chinese, and try to get them out of our territory.
Right.
Are they terrorists or are they freedom fighters?
Right.
That's the question that I ask people when it comes to Hamas.
Mm,
And you would call them freedom fighters if they were here in the US.
right.
Like, oh yeah, they're fighting against the Russians or the Chinese that are invading us or whatever. But but because they're Hamas and they're in Palestine or in the Middle East, all of a sudden they're terrorists, right?
Right. Well, the
By that
same kind
logic.
of right. The same thing happened in Iraq when the Iraqi people we're talking about in the second Gulf War, quote unquote, the invasion of Iraq in early two
Yeah,
thousands.
yeah,
Oh, insurgents. And I said to myself, how can you call somebody an insurgent if they're in their home and they're just
yeah,
trying to protect, with all due respect to those that serve, they're trying to protect their homeland. They're
yeah.
not
We
insurgencies. I'm just
Americans
saying.
invaded their land.
Right.
So they're not insurgents. They're defending their homeland from Americans, from
Right.
gringos, basically. Gringos,
Right.
we call them. They're
You know,
defending their
right.
homelands from us, ironically. I'm an American. I was born here in the United States, so I'm American. They're
And then the
defending.
propaganda, right? Yeah, they're dependent. And the propaganda that plays to part, it reminds me of 9/11, right? So at 9/11, my understanding, the CIA, FBI knew that something was going to happen. It happened.
Yes. The CIA, in particular, sent
Mm-hmm.
George W. Bush and his administration three letters, three
Right,
or two or three letters saying, "Oh yeah, Saddam Hussein, not Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden was going to attack the U.S. and he did
mm-hmm.
nothing. There
Right,
was no extra security, no border, nothing." And I think to myself, they meant this attack to happen. I don't care
right.
what people say about I'm a conspiracy theorist or whatever. That's fine, but they meant for this attack to happen in order to take away our rights.
Well, and not only that, but guess where they went? To Iraq, right? 2 years later.
Yeah,
What
they
does
meant
Iraq
to
have to
invade.
do? Right. And what happened there? Again, this is where I go back to the 2000 elections. Well, the 2000 elections were rigged or stolen? Absolutely. I'm just using common sense here.
W was president, and conveniently, he's pro invasion of Iraq,
Right,
and all of a sudden Saddam Hussein is gone, and oh yeah, we take all their oil. Very
right,
convenient.
right. So that's my thing with that situation. So when this situation would happen, I just told people, look, American propaganda. We could go all the way from 1898, when the Spanish American War, when the
Hmm.
press in the United States said, oh, the Spanish blew up a ship in Cuba, so we
Oh
need to go
yes,
after to
that
come out
was
that it was not true.
no, that was convenient lie.
Right,
In order
right,
for the United States to take over Puerto Rico, Cuba, all those islands there,
right,
because it was all Spanish islands.
right,
And people were, I remember somebody telling me, "You're Puerto Rican. You're so white." I'm white. I'm so white that it's like, oh yeah, but I'm sure that I have Spanish blood in me from Spain.
right.
That's why I'm so white.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back in my family tree, I'm sure there's some white slave owning, Spanish people in Spain.
Man,
So,
sometimes I tell the black community, bro, sometimes I'm more black than you being black because you
uh-huh.
don't know your history. You don't know about Malcolm X or anything like that. Well, no, I do not know. Am I supposed to know him? Yes, you're supposed to. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
because Malcolm X, I mean, the only reason why Martin Luther King was so listened to by our government is because of Malcolm X,
Mm,
because he was so much more militant.
right,
He's willing to be so much more violent than Martin Luther King. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Martin Luther King, great, right? Martin Luther King Day, right? I mean, he wasn't violent, peaceful,
right,
peaceful
right,
protests. I mean, that's what Martin Luther King did, and we
right.
listened to him because
Hmm.
Malcolm X was willing to be violent. That's the reason why.
And
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 people
they
forget
both
about that.
right. And when let's just say that the real Martin Luther King, when his real speeches started coming out and so on, that's when they both got whitewashed, both of them,
Hmm.
so that it could fit the mainstream media. I think Miss
Yeah.
what is it, Mr. Perfect, Mr. Perfect? How
Uh
do you
huh.
say we all free in Spanish? Todos estamos libre.
Tomos
Let's
todos
go.
estamos libre. Yeah. I
Let's
mean,
go.
I'm glad. Yeah. I mean, how do you say we are free in Spanish? Todos estamos libre. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Libre in the mind. So
Yep.
Andrew, this has been fun. I appreciate it. We need
Yeah,
to make
yeah.
this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you reached out to me and
Right,
said, "Oh, do you have a guest?" I was gonna do a show. I was like, "Oh, I'm not doing a show this week." And as like
right,
you reached out to me this morning, I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, of course." And I apologize to you, but I forgot about you, and I meant to have you on and reach out to
right.
you, but
That's fine.
I was like, and you reached out to me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm meaning to have him on," and
Hmm.
for reasons, I haven't reached out to you. I'm glad you reached out to me, man. I
No,
want to thank
everything
you for
happens
coming
a
on.
reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely no. Everything, look, everything happens for a reason. And what I'm saying that, yo, the revolution, Jose Vega, myself,
Mm-hmm.
you, and all
Yeah.
the independent, oh, we taking over. We taking over. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Latino voters or what? I mean, we're a powerful bloc now,
Right.
I mean, we decide elections now. It's like,
Well, because we don't lean towards our side.
no,
And
no, no, definitely.
unfortunately, that's what happens to the black community. That's
Yeah.
why the black communities where is
And,
that,
and
you
before
know,
we wrap up, I'll say this. I mean, I don't want to come across as like racist, but at the
mm,
same time, it's like, oh well, black people. Why do you keep voting for Democrats? I mean, it's
mm-hmm,
like Latinos don't are not a monolith, and we don't. We're like most of us vote for Democrats, yes, but it's
right,
like 50% or 60.
right,
Black people vote 90% Democrat, and it's like,
right.
and it's finally starting to change. It seems like with there's like 50% African Americans saying screw Biden. Finally,
Right. Because
I
at the end
mean,
of the day, what it is that it's these uh, so-called leaders that they put in front of these black neighborhoods or black communities. They're not leaders. They parrots, and they
no,
mimic and they part of the establishment.
they're parrots for the white man.
Right.
And
Right.
again, ironically, I understand that I'm just as white as they are, but still, I
Right.
mean, I'm a white man, technically, but still, I mean, I'm not as white. I understand what it's like to be Latino because I'm ultimately
Right.
Puerto Rican by trade, but still, I mean, these white people go around gaslighting black people or Puerto Ricans, like, oh well, vote for us, vote for
Right.
Democrats. Republicans hate you, even though
And,
they're the same. Democrats support more Latinos than Republicans ever did.
and then I always tell it. I
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I'm kind of helping waking up the black people. It's like what's funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is very sad. Domestic violence in terms of the black woman, number one. I'll guarantee you, you see one of these white liberals with the Black Lives Matter thing going on,
Yes,
you will
I
see
hate that.
them, right? So you will see them when a white cop kills a black man because unfortunately they might think that that's their cousin, their uncle. But when it comes to things that affect our community, you ain't gonna see
Mm-hmm.
them. You ain't gonna see them marching nowhere when it comes to things that affect our, whether it's domestic violence or whether it's poverty, whether it's feeding the kids. You ain't gonna see them nowhere near, unless if it hurts their bottom line.
Yeah, white. I mean, ultimately, white people don't. I mean, all they are is virtue signalers. I mean, they don't
Right,
care about Puerto Ricans or blacks or anything. Our plight, whatever our plight is, they
right,
don't care as long as they'll care when it's politically convenient. Like
right,
now during election year,
right.
they need our vote to reelect Biden. Even though I would never vote for Joe Biden, but they need our vote in order to elect Joe Biden. So it's like, oh yeah, we care about you now. Please vote for Joe Biden. Or vote for the Democrat, whoever Democrat
Mhm.
is, and for the election. But
I mean, unfortunately, like Malcolm X said, a lot of these black communities, they're surrounded by these certain people. Your boss, your lawyer, your landlord is white liberal, your
hmm
co-workers are white liberal. Everybody's white liberal, and you
yeah,
got that mentality. You got that what they would call the house Negro and the plant Negro. Your mentality is that yes, boss. Oh, I guess I'll be kicked out if I think different. We need to
hmm
stop that, and we need to stop
I
that like soon.
I always that kind of reminds me, and I always tell
Hmm.
people this. It's like Samuel L. Jackson in that movie, where he's yes, massa, yes, whatever you
Right.
say, massa,
Diango.
yeah, Django Unchained. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot the movie name until you mentioned it,
Hmm.
but with a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's like ever always, like the house black person. I was
Right,
gonna say the N word, but you get what I'm saying. I'm on
right,
YouTube. I can't say the N word, but
right. Oh,
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
use the
yeah,
N word. I used the other N
yeah,
word.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's the house black person, so but yeah, it's like, are you really gonna be a house and black person or what? I mean, come
Right,
on.
right. And that's when I'm
Mhm.
again. That's where I'm at. But unfortunately, once you see black people rise up to be independent, then you start throwing them with the wait a minute, the pronouns, the you have to fight this now, you have to do this. And unfortunately, in order to survive to New York City, there's one way to survive in New York City for a lot of these individuals is to brown nose, bootlick. That's why
Yeah,
it's a big
and
issue.
me personally, I would never really do that. I
Right,
mean, it's like that's why I don't get the views that other YouTubers get, but I'm fine with
right,
it. I'll build my audience. I have a small loyal audience here. My chat is
right.
so I'll take that. Eventually I'll build up my audience, but I'm not going to be a suck up.
No, we making it happen. So at the end of the
Yeah,
day, everybody, that's my deconstructing topics. I'm in every platform, Apple Podcasts,
yeah,
Spotify, whatever the case might be. I think you did a great job at sending the links, so I appreciate it. I'm
yeah.
on
That's
YouTube
all
as
in
well.
the description box below. All your links are
Right.
there.
So,
So check out his podcast. I think I'm gonna have you back on in future so we talk about other topics. But
oh, we talking about everything. Let's get it. Woo
hopefully
woo.
we have you on tomorrow for the wrestling podcast. Well, I mean, I'm sure Mister Perfect is perfect. My co-host would love to have you on.
Right, a little. We need a little balance with politics. Why not
Yeah,
with
yeah.
wrestling? So I say,
Because
why not?
yeah, I mean it's tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern. So if you're able to come
Hmm.
on, I'll send you a link. You let me know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, absolutely. I think most likely I'm getting on because I guess we are ready. We are getting ready for WrestleMania as well coming up.
yeah, that's in April.
That's my thing. I haven't missed a WrestleMania in a long time, in like 20 something years. So,
Yeah, I've watched nearly every single WrestleMania myself, so I'm looking
we-
forward to WrestleMania this year. But,
oh, me too,
but
me too, me too.
yeah, so I'm gonna wrap up now. I want to thank everybody for coming out, for hanging out in the chat. I want to
Yes,
thank you for
yes,
coming on.
absolutely. Appreciate it,
I
Angel.
appreciate the chat. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have done a show because I was like, I'm not doing a show today. You reached out to me this morning. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, I'll have him on.
Yeah,
So
something just said to myself, let's make it happen because tomorrow is never guaranteed.
yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, oh, I mean, we meaning to have you on for a while, but I never got around to it, and I forgot about you, and I'm glad you reached out to me. So it was like,
No problem, Angel.
so I want to thank you for reaching out for me and having coming on the show tonight, taking time,
I appreciate it.
and I hope to see you tomorrow, maybe for wrestling
Absolutely.
talk.
Let's do it. Why not? I'm there tomorrow. We making it happen. Cause guess what? We're gonna make it too sweet. Let's get it
NWO for life.
for life. I'm out of here, brother. Peace
All
out.
right. Well,
I'm out.
thank you everybody for coming on, and I'll see you guys next week for a new guest. So I'll see you guys next week with a new guest, and peace out. Have a nice weekend, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Pro Wrestling Talk, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Thank you, and have a good night.